Follow me as we march along to a land filled with searing highs, dizzying lows, and creamy middles. Plexi land. The Plexi, a real honest-to-goodness Marshall Plexi. They're not super gain machines. And so the gain at like 2 o'clock, that was like the max. That's like with everything on 10 on an old Marshall Plexi, okay? This is what it would sound like cranked. People always talk about this, the Plexi sound. I want that Plexi sound. For sure, we all do, but I think everyone's conception of what that is differs. A true Plexi sound is actually that. The main point of the Plexi is it's got that really great mid bite, okay? Let me tell you about the signal chain really quick. G&L Legacy with Lawler pickups, Lawler blondes, going into the Iridium. I've disabled the IR, and after the Iridium Punch channel, I'm going into a Flint Reverb, and that's going into my DAW Logic Pro with a York Audio M25 Marshall cab, and it's mix 10. Let's listen to this clean sound. And just for reference, this is what it's like without any reverb. So the spring reverb going through the IR, even though that's not what Marshalls were like back in the day, it gives it just a little bit of a different EQ because I have the color high here, right? You turn it low, it gives it that low sound. But I like giving it a little high, a little push in the high end. And I have a kind of a longer decay, but pretty low in the mix. And I have a little bit of room reverb on after the IR to make it sound like you're in the room with an amp. So as far as like a clean, what a normal Plexi would be, I mean, like at 2 o'clock, this is a nice sound. I mean, like you can do, just roll back the volume just a little bit. So this is what I didn't know. Like the punch channel really can do these like interesting clean sounds that are on the verge of breakup, but it gives you character, right? And you're not playing through like a Roland like JC120 or something. Like you're playing through like a really interesting sound. A couple of tricks I've learned when you're trying to get this kind of sound. You roll back the volume just like about to like 9. Roll back your tone probably like to 8. And that takes a little bit off of that high end. Because there's one complaint about the punch channel is that it usually has a fizzy top end, right? And that's really a complaint about most Marshalls. Like the top end can be kind of intense, right? And this is with the tone all the way up. You can feel it's not terrible, but like you can feel it starting to get to the point where like, okay, that's not a great sound. One thing that, this is the old Jonathan Cordy trick, was using the punch channel through a Fender style IR. So we're going to switch this to a Fender Deluxe Reverb IR from York Audio. It's mix 3. And it's got a much softer middle, right? So you can really pump the middles on the Iridium to compensate for that. try giving it a Fender sound. Let's try scooping the middles. It works surprisingly well, right? Messed up some of those notes, but you get the point. Never would have thought of this combination. Thank you, Jonathan Cordy. He's a British guitarist, and he's very funny. He's got a dry wit, and he seems like the coolest cucumber you'll ever meet. So one day I hope to meet him. Seems like he's a fun guy. I can tell you're not happy. You want to hear like ripping Marshall sounds. Let's do it. So this is how I feel about the punch channel. So let's get the mids back up. All right. When you start to pump the gain, so let's just put it at 3. As you pump the gain, you gotta fill around with the middle and treble, and it kind of does it in a way that you expect, but sometimes not. Normally, if you scoop a Marshall, it's not gonna sound great. Like normally in Marshall, you really want the bass low, like around here, and then you want the middle pretty high and the treble kind of somewhere in halfway, right? Let's just pump it all, right? Let's just see what this is. That's cool, actually. Okay, I never thought that all the way would sound good. This is what I think sounds better. Let's roll that back. Let's add the EP booster. Hear that? Let's roll that bass back. EP booster adds low mids. So that's where we need to get into, like, what are you going for, right? Because if you want a ripping lead tone, then by all means, pull down the bass, pump those mids. High, you can leave prior out there, but like, let's put mids there. But let's say like we need like an all-in-one sound, like you're the only guitarist in the band. Oh, everyone's counting on you. That's where you want that bass back in there, right? But that's a great like lead and rhythm sound, right? You can go between two just using your volume. Let's add an overdrive. So we've got a OCD drive on right now. Right, the OCD adds like, and this is on the, so this is a low powered setting of the OCD. And just a little bit of volume. Maybe more than a little bit, probably 2 dBs of volume. The tone, adding a touch high end, right? I mean, oh, that's a great lead. Let's add some more mids here. It's almost got like a, when you push those mids, it gives it a kind of like Now that only really happens with a Strat. You might have an OCD, you might have another mid-gain pedal like a Super Overdrive from Boss. I love that one. Anything that gives it like a mid-gain bump, I think is a great way to get that lead sound or a more overdriven sound instead of using the built-in gain. I'll show you when we should use the built-in gain. It's not that I don't like it, it's just like it's a specific sound. It sounds less like a modded Plexi and more like a JCM 800. I mean, it sounds very different than a Plexi when you start to bump the gain. One more thing to talk about, a fuzz. This is a Superfuzz from Voodoo Labs. This is actually based on the Jordan Electronics fuzz pedal, because a fuzz in front of a Marshall, as made famous by Hendrix, is a very cool sound. Now, he used a fuzz face, which is germanium. This does not use germanium. I can't remember what kind of fuzz it sounds like, but it still gives a fuzz noise. Cool thing too, when you roll back the volume on a fuzz, and one more thing we're going to add. So we're going to add a harmonic tremolo. A harmonic tremolo is actually a filter. It filters high and low differently at different phases, and it creates a tremolo effect, but it sounds more like a phaser or a UNIVIBE almost. Right, that gives it a cool chopping noise. Maybe increase the speed a little bit. A fuzz in front of that is just insane. Okay, now we're using my PRS SC245, and we're using it in front of a different IRA, the York Audio M25 Mix 15. Way different, right? Now let's turn down that bass. Now let's turn up the mids. Now the bridge. Yeah, dude. Adding a boost. Now listen to this with OCD. This is like filling in that like kind of like mid. Before this is very honky, right? This softens it, gives it a little bit of compression. But let's roll up that gain. Ooh, let's see what, let's. Here, that's a lot of compression there. As you roll that up, I would really pull back a lot of this stuff. Nothing against metal. I love metal music, but you know that's not a Plexi. I almost never turn it past 3 o'clock because that's what you get. You get this different. You get a different amp. I was editing and I realized there's actually one more thing that makes it sound like a really cranked Plexi is putting a Plexi style overdrive in front of it. So you're like Plexi, double Plexi power, right? What I have is the exotic SL drive, which is based on the Super Lead. It's got like so much gain on it, so I only have it at like 10 o'clock. And it's like, you know, and it's cranking. If you have the gain too high in the Iridium, it compresses way too much. And so you got to have the gain also at 10 o'clock. But together, like listen to that. That's like got a great. It's got that bite. It's got like that like buzz saw, which is what you want. This is without the SL drive. So it's like on the edge of breakup. That's like a JTM 45 kind of vibe, right? And this is with it on. Nailed it. Okay, back to the video. Okay, but let's say you did want to play metal. Alex, I like metal. Don't tell me not to play metal. I hear you. Here's what you do. So now we're going through a York Audio 5150 4x12, and it's EVH 5150. And it's got a much tighter low end, and it can handle these high gain things. And I have a guitar with much higher output. This is a PRS Custom 24S2. The 35th anniversary edition with this IR works with the gain at max, right? You can scoop it a bit, and the EP booster is adding a little bit more oomph and low end, which is why we have the low end all the way down. So whatever in your pickup configuration, you have to pay attention to that, okay? Pay attention to the relationship between the bass, the middle, and the treble. Easy way to think about that is this. Is the treble too harsh? Are you going, ow, that hurts? Turn down the treble. Is the middle strong enough, right? Are you getting the note clarity and definition that you want? If you don't have the clarity you want, turn it down a bit, all right? But you still want that tone. The magic is in the mids. Mids is where the actual sound of the instrument is. And then with the bass, is it too flubby? Again, are you losing clarity? Are you, people are like, oh, I want to feel that thump. That's fine, just to make it louder then. But you don't want to feel that thump with like crowding out the mids, because as you bring this up, these don't work together. They work against each other, okay? So you turn up the bass, the mids are going to suffer. Always pay attention to what your gain is doing to all those EQs. So as you can see, picking the right IR for the tone is what matters, right? So for the, the Strat I was playing, that single coil, like we chose a rounder IR in the M20 cab, right? And then we chose a Fender Deluxe cab to give it a clean sound, to give it a nice, comfortable, really kind of scooped profile. And then we went into an M25 cab for my PRS SC245, and that gave it a classic kind of rock sound. But then if we wanted to tighten that up for like metal and high gain stuff, we went with the EVH 5150. The Iridium was giving us the tone, and we were paying attention to that, giving it the right IR, and like getting all sorts of usable tones out of that. I still love this Iridium. I think it's just it's still such a great pedal. You add a new IR and it sounds like a completely new thing. If you want to check out all the other videos I did on the York Audio IRs, which I clearly love, there's a playlist here. Check it out, buy them all, tell them Alex sent you.